control and power over all the other draconians. Now, such a title obviously was too important to be given away like nothing. But who was Cherries? She was the most influential draconian, just below that of the draconian queen herself. At the very most, she could ordain the dragonborns to be just below her in importance. These three demi-humans would become the third most important people within the draconian society. It made sense why these draconians reacted so strongly. Master, Lady Cherries, that's way too much. Our country would go into disarray. These draconians were a part of Cherry's faction, yet they were already reacting negatively towards her offer. What more to the other factions within the draconian society who wasn't a part of theirs? Surely it would cause chaos, strife, and war within them. Many would criticize Cherries. Shush, she told the naysayers. The ancient roar was way too important of a power to not be in the hands of the draconians. They considered it their birthright. They felt that it was their God-given power. The fact that the Dragonborns weren't part of the draconian society was an affront to all their beliefs. Cherries knew that, so that's why she tried to amend that problem by trying to adopt the Dragonborns into the draconian society. The draconian queen would understand why she offered this. In fact, she would have agreed and pushed even harder to try and get the Dragonborns' allegiance. She could tell that these three were siblings. They were related, meaning that the powers of their ancient roar were tied to their genetics, their bloodline. If they could somehow introduce this bloodline into the draconian ancestry, then they would have a chance to gain those abilities far in the future. Offering the Dragonborns a throne was the least they could have done to get that kind of power. Mehijaku replied, not interested at all. No thank you, Yumisu quietly replied. Seeing their responses, the draconians didn't know if they wanted to be thankful or angry. They were glad they refused, but how could they refuse? Becoming a part of the draconian society was the best honor they were going to get in this life. They should have at least been tempted in their choices. Yet instead, they disregarded it like it was not even a possibility in their eyes. My apologies, Lady Cherries, we mean no disrespect to the draconians, but we are deeply loyal to Lord Michael. He is the only one who could lead us all to our dreams, Shayna said respectfully. Cherries looked at the Dragonborns and saw their expressions. They were serious. If they had accepted, they could have had millions of draconians under their wings. They could have led those people to conquer the entire world if they so wanted. Yet they chose not to. In a choice between global domination and loyalty, they chose loyalty. They truly believed that the young human would be the only one they needed in this world. It was unbelievable to see. Fufu haha ha. Cherry's laughter reverberated through the entire room. Are humans really this interesting? You haven't seen anything yet, said Eldia. All right, you have chosen your own path, I admire that. Then she looked towards Michael. My student's offer still stands. You are welcome to the Draconian continent at any time. You will have my official seal. Once again, the Draconians around her reacted with surprise. By giving them her own seal, this meant that they would be acting with the same influence and power as her. She was basically saying that once they visit the Draconian continent, they would be treated the same way as her. They'd be treated with the same importance as the second most influential Draconian in the continent. In exchange, I wish for you to take my student under your arms, said Cherries, pushing Infernus towards Michael. Master, how can you forsake me? Cherries just laughed. It's high time for you to earn your own wings, my student. No more hiding under my shadows. You must earn your own scales, and it looks like you'll be best suited to be with these people. By doing this, she'll have created a connection with the Reborn company and by extension, the Dragonborns. This kind of alliance would not bear fruit in the short term but would definitely show its worth in the future. It would also act as an eye. Infernus could keep an eye on the Dragonborns, watch their movements, watch how they train. Hopefully, he could also find the reason as to how they awaken their ancient roar to see if it's possible for them to awaken it as well. Michael knew this, but he wasn't going to refuse another nascent spirit cultivator by their midst. Infernus was a powerful draconian, one whose name echoes fear within a lot of people. I accept, Michael said. Cherries extended her hands, and Michael shook it with a firm shake. Extreme pressure bore down on his hand. It took all of his nascent spirit power not to cower under her power. A few seconds passed, and she continued to try and force him to fall to his knees. Golden nanoparticles emerged out of his skin, forming a mechanical armor around his arm and forcing it with more power. Added with his nascent influence defense, he was able to withstand her onslaught. "Impressive," she said. "I'm putting the life of my dearest student in your hands. I'm hoping you don't lead him to ruin." Then, after she said those words, she turned around and waved them off. Michael took this to know that he was no longer welcome in her castle. Michael stood alone, his hands shaking. Shock was written all over his face as he looked at his palms. "Draconian DNA registered," ChatJK6 said. "Use results to unlock the Dragonborn's next evolutionary phase." Michael was still flabbergasted with ChatJK6's notification as he exited Cherry's draconian tower. "I still don't know what you're planning, but know that the Order of the Heavenly Knights will be by your side," Eldia said, giving Michael a warm smile. "At the very least, you'll have the Way of the Sword as your allies." "We will be helping you as well," Gordon said. "The Zentmeister Company will be of great help to you once you try to ascend to the elites." Here, I hope you won't forget our names once you rise to the top, ha, laughed Wadeby. Michael took his attention off from his ruminations and focused on the people around him. True enough, he would need their help sooner or later. Since he officially finished 4th place in the feast, he was entitled to a large piece of land in the Upper Queens region where the elites resided. He'd be taking over what the TriStar Company had. This was actually the best-case scenario for him. After all, if he had won 3rd place instead, he would have only obtained land overseas. That was important, of course, but that would mean Reborn wouldn't have a place to expand into in the rest of the royal continent. Now they had both territories in the continent and overseas, the island of Proximity to be exact. He knew about that place but hadn't exactly been there himself. He'll probably have one of his mini drones make the travel and act as a transportation node for him to teleport to once the mini drone reached the island. "I will be grateful for your help," he said to his new allies. "If you'll excuse me, I have a few things I need to settle." "A few things?" Gordon laughed. "Young man, you have a mountain of things to do." Seeing as Michael seemed too distracted to realize what he was talking about, the senior took the opportunity to explain. "It might seem fine for today, but tomorrow onwards, the effects of everything will start to come into effect. First, the loss of magic. Things will change. The ersatz will continue to try and recruit people, and no matter how many times we try to stop them, they'll be able to gather their own people without limits. The fact that the conglomerates and the Guild of Arcana wasn't present in today's summit also meant that a lot of things are about to change. If large organizations like them become quiet, you'll know something's up. I don't even want to mention the ancient roar, but that will begin to spread. Many will be curious as to how you were able to recreate that. Now that we've discussed the big things, let's focus on the small things, on things that will affect your day-to-day processes. Right now, New Sparta is an island. There are large chasms that separate it from both sides. People without ability power will not be able to cross it, impeding business and lifestyles. Michael looked at a perspective from one of his mini drones high up in the air. There, he saw a top-down vision of New Sparta as well as its surrounding territories. On the northern and southern sides of New Sparta, there were 2 large gashes on the ground as deep as a mountain and as wide as a canyon. This was made during the aftermath of Eldia and the ersatz diamond leaders' attacks. And because of that, one would have to circumvent the edges of the chasm if they wanted to go to New Sparta and vice versa. A simple 4-hour journey would now turn into a 24-hour journey. The repercussions this had over business was immense, even with the use of automobiles and such. Of course, people could try and build a bridge, but it would be hard and would take a lot of effort since the chasm was so deep and wide. The people of this world simply didn't have the necessary infrastructure to create a bridge like that. But he could. Reborn definitely had the methods to create such an infrastructure. In fact, he could even go as far as to create a tunnel and a highway to make travel that much easier. It would definitely be on